The Big 12 and the Pac 12 and their expansion efforts, and this all ties back in the Southeastern Conference. So, right now, the Pac 12 is fighting for their survival. They are being rated by the Big 12. The TV contract is up. They've got targets of their own out there. This could lead to another very, very active summer in realignment. So where do we stand right now? I thought you had an excellent piece that you posted a couple days ago about targets for the Big 12, and those targets, a lot of them are in the Pac-12 right now. Where do we stand right now with expansion in those two leagues?
Well, everybody's just kind of watching and waiting to see what the Pac-12 does with their next TV contract. They're about the end of the last year of their TV deal with ESPN, Fox, and they got to get a new one. And they've been negotiating now for close to a year on a new one. And as you know, Charlie, TV deals these days are pretty significant when it comes to a conference's viability. TV revenue is the main source of revenue for conferences and schools. So if the TV deal isn't good enough, then I think you'll have some Pac-12 schools with leering eyes at some other leagues like the Big 12, who's very interested in continuous expansion. So everyone's kind of waiting on the Pac-12 deal. There was some information that came out yesterday. The Pac-12 presidents met on Monday, didn't really make any decisions, but there was some information that came out of the meeting that the TV deal that, again, negotiations have been going on for 10, 11 months now, are still ongoing and could stretch into August. So at some point, there could be some impatience, if there's not already, with the Colorados and the Arizonas, probably for starters, in this TV situation, because the Big 12 has their TV deal done, so it's a little more attractive of a league, and we'll hopefully know more in the next 30 to 60 days. The Big 12 has meetings in West Virginia. They had their spring meetings in West Virginia the same week, actually, as the SEC, and it's there that I think they might have a more idea of who their targets will be in expansion and who they could get.
This Pac-12 TV deal, this strikes me as kind of a chicken and the egg deal. How can the Pac-12 negotiate a TV deal if they can't guarantee those networks that both Arizona schools, Colorado and Utah, will be in the league that they sign a TV deal with? And how can those schools commit to the Pac-12 before they actually have a TV deal in place? Which one comes first?
Yeah, well, I think those schools will publicly say they're committed, and they have, up until a TV deal presents itself and is not good enough. But you're right, it is kind of a chicken and egg thing. It is kind of like an interesting situation, because if you're one of those schools, if you're a network that's working with Pac-12, you obviously want assurances that before you make an official offer, that those schools are going to be part of the league. And not only that, you're going to want assurances that the league may expand, which they're courting, I think, pretty heavily, San Diego State and SMU to join their league and get it back up to 12 members. But it is an interesting situation. I think if I had to guess, just based on what I've heard about how this goes down, it's the TV networks, which there probably will be multiple, and streaming platforms as well. I think a lot has been made of, the Apples and Amazons involved in the discussions. They'll make an offer based on the current membership, and then George Klobkoff, the commissioner, would take that to the president, and they'll take it back to their athletic directors. Everybody will meet, and I think that's at the point where the schools will say, okay, we're in. We'll all sign a grant of rights. Probably will be short, 4 to 6 years, I'd imagine, and we're in. Or those schools will say, we don't like this offer. We are pulling out. And then once that happens, the offer that the TV networks made is void, basically, because those schools are out. So that's kind of probably how it will go down.
And there is some sense of urgency here, even more than that, if San Diego State's involved, to get out of the Mountain West. They've got to leave by July 1st. If they don't, their exit fee triples from $17 million to $51 million, and that's now we're talking about real money. So we'll watch that deal as well. Ross, I want to move to the ACC now because we'll eventually get to the SEC. This all is kind of the preface for it. The ACC projects to be $30 million behind the SEC and the Big 12 in payouts by 2026. This is because of the grant of rights deal that they've got, and a number of schools are not at all happy about it. They're led by Florida State and Clemson. They want what I'm calling the Texas deal. They want a distribution of revenue that is more in line with what they bring to the conference. This almost destroyed the Big 12 when Texas tried it until eventually everybody went their own separate ways. Is this realistic in the ACC that Florida State and Clemson could stage a mutiny?
Well, it's been a long few weeks, months for the ACC, and Commissioner Jim Phillips. He has kind of fought off schools like the power schools in the league, like you said, Clemson, Florida State, maybe even Miami and North Carolina, who do want some kind of unequal revenue distribution. I think they're going to move in that direction where it'll be a more merit performance-based distribution. Instead of everybody getting an equal share, you get what you eat, so to speak, which is, as you said, right, has often backfired at other places. It has not worked. There's an SEC AD who told me for that story on Monday that if this happens in the ACC and they distribute their distribution changes to a merit base and unequal distribution, that it is the beginning of the end of the conference. And I think he's probably right there because you have a pie and you cut it in the ACC's situation 14 ways right now, and everybody gets an equal cut of the pie. If you change that and somebody gets a bigger piece, it's got to come from the others. So you're going to have a gap within your own league members. Forget about the gap between the Big Ten and SEC, right? But you'll have a gap within your own membership that will grow and grow, and it's probably just going to be untenable. So, the future of the ACC is certainly in jeopardy.
Yeah, wait till somebody breaks it to Wake Forest what their share of the revenue is going to be. All right, so this is where we get to the SEC part. If those ACC schools break off, they've got no shortage of options, but the SEC would be reluctant to be one of them, I guess. So my question is, if Florida State and Clemson all of a sudden figure out a loophole in this grant of rights thing to break off, is the SEC a candidate for those two or possibly schools in North Carolina or Virginia?
Yeah, that's the latter more so, probably, right? If anybody's ever been to Clemson, South Carolina, been to a game there, been to the campus and the town and talk to the people, you'll come away thinking this is an SEC place. This place should be in the SEC. They talk with an accent, right? They eat the same things as the SEC schools and college towns. You can find some of the similar things there. They love their football. They pack that stadium, 85,000 or so. It's an SEC place. However, the SEC already has a school in South Carolina, University of South Carolina, and it also has a school in Florida, in the University of Florida. And leagues get extra shares based on their footprint in a state, their presence in a state. So the SEC wouldn't get any extra TV shares if they pick up Florida State and Clemson. However, as you mentioned there, they would get extra shares if they picked up somebody, say, in North Carolina, maybe in Chapel Hill, or if they picked up somebody in Virginia. So those are the more probably attractive schools based on money, and as they say, Charlie, always follow the money.
Yeah. All right. SEC meetings. You'll be down in Destin here in less than 2 weeks. And Ross, I've said this a number of times. I think these are the most important SEC meetings that they have had since they expanded back in '92. The scheduling model that comes out of this is probably going to stick for a while. I'm going to, beg off on the ACC moving some teams into the SEC for now and say they'll stick with the 16. So whatever comes out of this is going to be what we're dealing with, I think, for a minimum of 10 years. Where do you think the vote is right now on 8 versus 9 and permanence versus and 3 permanents versus 1 permanent?
Yeah, it is going to be maybe the most newsworthy SEC meeting in a while, not just because of scheduling. They'll have this field storming situation they've got. They've got the NIL situation where Texas A&M is now running NIL through their foundation. So there's all of that, which has caused quite a hubbub within the league. And then you got Texas and Oklahoma there for the first time, I believe. They'll be there as the new members. They won't be able to vote, but they'll be there. Yeah, very busy. I think, to get back to your question, it's still split. I get the sense that the league is still split on the 8 versus 9 conference games, and whether you keep a Power 5 conference requirement, a non-conference requirement. And maybe that gets resolved in Destin. Maybe it doesn't, Charlie. I think that this reminds me of CFP negotiations the last 2 years for the expanded playoff, right? You've got the CFP president board, and then you've got the CFP commissioners. The commissioners do most of the work. They make most of the decisions and pass it on to the presidents to rubber stamp. And over the last 2 years, the presidents basically took it out of the commissioners' hands because they squabbled and couldn't agree, and they approved it themselves. I think the SEC scheduling model in the hands of the ADs, they can't agree. Well, it's time to push it to the president. And so you'll probably have the presidents meet there in Destin. We'll have a joint meeting in Destin with the ADs as well, where the presidents probably need to take command of the issue.
Is there a swing vote? I think it's easy enough to say that this is between the haves and the have-nots, the higher budget teams in the conference and the lower budget teams. Is there a swing vote or two from either side that could go the other way? In other words, of the revenue schools, who's most likely to agree to an 8-game schedule? And of the non-revenue teams, who's most likely to agree to a 9?
Well, I think there's one thing we haven't talked about here involved in this, and that's the ESPN additional revenue for a 9th conference game. I think you could swing some of these ADs and even presidents, these schools that are on board with 8 games to stay at 8. You could probably swing them if the additional revenue from ESPN was enough. $5-7 million a year for each school extra. Hey, that'd be great. I think you'd probably swing some of those votes. However, ESPN is in quite a predicament right now, right? They're having layoffs. They got an NBA deal coming up. They're negotiating WWE, UFC. They've got a new management at the top involved in all this. It's really complicated. I don't know if ESPN is going to give enough to swing the 8 gamers. And right now, it feels to me that the 8 gamers probably have the edge. You'd be surprised, though, Charlie, in the split. I know it is mostly split on revenue-generating lines, but I'll give you an example. In the Nick Saban's office, right, 3 months ago, and he basically aired his support for an 8-game schedule.
Yeah, he's the swing. That's what I was going at. That's what I was going at. He may be the swing vote because he doesn't want to play. He doesn't want to play LSU, Tennessee, and Auburn every year, right?
He does not. Arguably, that's they've tried to split, trying to give balance to the 3 permanent opponents. And I think for the most part they have. I think their model is actually pretty good. But when it comes to Alabama, you get in a situation where Tennessee is right on that kind of line. Are they the top of the league? Are they the bottom? Well, lately they've won a lot of games, right? And they beat Alabama last year. So I think Nick Saban believes that either LSU or Tennessee needs to come off for a lower half school. And I don't know that that's going to happen. So if it's not going to happen, I would guess Alabama would be in the 8-game camp along with, probably the Mississippi States and the Ole Misses and the Vanderbilts and the Kentuckys and the Arkansas and South Carolina. So there's I don't know how many I named there, but it gets to where you're basically at 8-6, maybe even 9-5 toward an 8-game model.
One more thing, and we'll let you start packing T-shirts and flip-flops. What do you think, if it was entirely up to him, that Greg Sankey would want? In other words, if they'd say, okay, the schools can't come to a decision, they're 7-7. You got to break the tie. What does Greg Sankey want?
You're going to put me on the spot here, aren't you?
Yeah.
I can get aggregated a headline and then get a nasty call from somebody in Birmingham. I really don't know. He has not told me. He has not said anything publicly. But I will say this, as a league as a whole, and one of the ADs, I think, been pretty public about this, that's Scott Strickland at Florida, you are already right now very valuable as a league. Right? You've got the most valuable product in the country. Why would you not want to increase your value by playing an extra SEC versus SEC game? Yeah, it might hurt you, and half the league might get losses, an extra loss there. But as one other AD told me in the league, why are we making decisions based on going to the Texas Bowl? This shouldn't be a bowl eligibility decision. It should be taking advantage of the value in the league, and that would be going to ninth game. And I'm assuming many people in the league, in Birmingham probably feel that way.
Ross, enjoy your vacation. We'll catch up with you when you get to Destin, which is also a vacation. I mean, you got it good for the next couple of weeks, buddy. Hey, we appreciate you carving out some time. Thanks a lot.
All right, Charlie.
I wanted to get Ross before he went on vacation, before the SEC meetings, because this is another big shift summer. These are not insignificant decisions. This is not deciding to add a non-conference game against Toledo. These are things that are going to shape leagues for years to come. And he's been on top of this story as much as anybody in the media. So we got about another week and a half worth of calm, and then the real storm at the SEC meetings and whatever happens with the Big 12 and the Pac-12 and the ACC. Besides that, only the Big 10. They got all of their stuff together. No turmoil there. New commissioner, but everything else is fine. Everybody else got some real decisions to make. We'll take a break. This is Hannytime, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hannytime. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Turn my music high, 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 yeah.
You don't know what you're doing.
Sure I do. I'm from the streets where the hood can swallow on me. Bullets will follow on me. There's so much that you could run the slalom. The cops comb this top to bottom. They say that we are prone to violence, but it's home sweet home. With personalities clashing, chrome meets chrome. Prices up and down like this Wall Street.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, Hannytime, Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
Moscona inviting you to join us for Wednesday's Hump Day AFR, presented by Pluckers. We'll recap LSU McNeese from the box, start taking a look at the Georgia Bulldogs. It's a Whiskey Wednesday, Pluckers trivia, lots of good stuff. Wednesday, 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hannytime with Charles Hannegriff on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
LSU baseball hoping to get a sharp performance on the way out of town to play Georgia against McNeese last night. They went in hoping for a win. They got that. They went in hoping that Blake Money could kind of extend into this game so they wouldn't have to use very many guys out of the bullpen. The first 2 innings that went fine, and then it kind of blew up on them. They were hoping not to use a lot of guys. That didn't happen. They were hoping that they played a sharp defensive game, even with some other guys playing. For instance, Hayden Travinsky played first last night. That really didn't work out. They made 4 errors last night. They left a whole pile of runners on base. They won the game. Big hit by Cade Beloso, no question, and another big shot by Travinsky, who might be swinging the hottest bat on the team right now. But basically, LSU was able to feast on 6 walks and 6 hit batters by McNeese, plus a couple of errors. You know, it was just a very ugly played ball game. LSU got out of it with the win. I don't know that they got a whole lot else out of that game last night. Like I said, it was just one of those kind of ugly games. You know, you left a bunch of runners on base. You can't get down a bunch. You make 4 errors. You got to use multiple relief pitchers. You can't get out of the ninth without using 2 of what are your main guys, even though they have struggled. Not anything impressive last night about LSU at all, other than they got the win. And I guess that's the most important thing as they get out of town to play. What's a dangerous Georgia team? A team that is probably going to make a coaching change, and a team that when they have been good, they've been as good as anybody in the conference. And when they've been bad, they've been as bad as anybody in the conference. Case in point, they've been swept 3 times by South Carolina and Vandy, who are both good teams. Neither one of them are playing well right now, but back when they played them, they were both good teams. And then they got swept by Missouri, who hasn't been good ever. except they somehow swept Tennessee to open the season, and I still can't figure that one out. So they've gotten swept 3 times. On the other hand, they've won series against Kentucky and Tennessee, who are both pretty good, and they swept Arkansas in Athens when Arkansas was number 2 in the country. And if Tennessee getting swept at Missouri is not the most surprising outcome of a weekend series in the league all year long, then Arkansas getting swept at Georgia is. So if you get the good Georgia or the bad Georgia, there's like a gulf of difference between that. They don't have a pitcher that has an ERA under 4. Not a single one. You think LSU's pitching struggling? Go look at Georgia's. On the other hand, they got a couple of Thunder bats up at the top of the lineup. Charlie Condon, which would be a very unfortunate name if the man worked in this building, is having just a monster year, all right? He's hitting .415. He's got 24 bombs. He's driven in 65 runs. And Connor Tate's hitting .390 with 15 home runs. After that, they don't have another guy hitting within 100 points of those two, which is why the batting average for Georgia is among the league's best, but their runs scored are among the league's worst. In SEC games, Georgia's batting average is right behind LSU. LSU's number 3 and Georgia's number 4. But in runs scored, LSU's number 1 and Georgia's number 13. They've got these two guys that are raising the overall team average, but when you only got 2 guys in the lineup that are really hitting, they got another guy in Parks Harbor who's got 17 home runs, but the average is down. That you don't score the amount of runs that you're hoping for, except a couple of weekends when they were able to do that. So LSU takes what has been a troubled last couple of weeks into Athens with, the Southeastern Conference is there. Arkansas is playing Vanderbilt this weekend, so Vandy's due to break out any minute now. They've scored 11 runs in the last 2 weekends combined. I mean, come on, that's ridiculous for an offense that's that good. So they play Arkansas. Florida's playing at a dangerous Kentucky team who, is still hoping to host. They've got that number 1 RPI, but they're, down in the conference standings. So what do you do there? Jay Johnson last night after the game on facing the Georgia Bulldogs.
Well, we're excited for this trip. We're going to go to Athens and play the last SEC series. Our team's played themselves into good position for the regular season, and we want to finish it off the right way. And then we'll head down to Hoover for the SEC tournament, which is one of the best events in all of amateur baseball, in my opinion. So I'm excited to get on the road with these guys. We have some work we need to do to continue to improve these things. So it's a very business-oriented trip, but I think, honestly, it's going to be good for us to get out of here and just be together and work on our deal.
He's right about that. A lot of times these road trips, this is going to be a long road trip. They'll be gone anywhere from 8 to 12 days, depending on how far they go in Hoover. So the opportunity, no school's over, exams are done, so you're just playing baseball now. Maybe, the team bonds a little bit. Maybe a little bit of the pressure is off, not playing in front of the home crowd. Sometimes it works that way. Not saying it's going to work that way this time. By the time they get into the middle of next week, I think, you're going to have a top 8 seed very comfortably in your pocket if you go win 2 out of 3 this weekend. Now, if they were to run into a Georgia buzzsaw the way Arkansas did, things start to get a little hairy. I still think they're okay. I've said all along, I think this resume is pretty close to bulletproof, even with the last 2 weekend losses, but, don't go 0-5. Here's the thing. They've got 5 games for sure that they will play. Paul Skeen's going to pitch 2 of them. So that should make you feel a little bit better, if nothing else. Baseball at the Box podcast will be posted this afternoon, presented by Napa with myself and Dan Canaveri. All right, lightning did not strike last night for the New Orleans Hornets. New Orleans Pelicans. I'm looking down here at my Hornets thing when I was doing draft history. New Orleans Pelicans, sorry about that. They will pick 14th if they keep the pick, which I think is unlikely, but we'll see. And the San Antonio Spurs win the draft lottery. The Spurs have had great success when they have won the draft lottery. That's why we talked about this yesterday. There are some lotteries where, kind of whatever. Sometimes you draft Anthony Bennett. Sometimes you draft Michael Olowokandi. But sometimes you draft Tim Duncan or you draft David Robinson. And Victor Wembanyama is thought to be a prospect along those lines, which is why there was great rejoicing in San Antonio. When it got down to the last four, Mario, tell me what you were thinking when it got down to the last four. They take the commercial break, and it's the Spurs, the Hornets, the Trailblazers, and the Rockets. What were you thinking at that point?
I thought for sure he was going to end up in a small market because those kind of things usually happen, and that's exactly what happened. Kind of crazy that Pop gets to coach the Admiral, Tim Duncan, and now Victor, all three of them.
Yeah, he's going to coach till he's 90. What I was thinking was keep this guy out of the damn division, okay? I'm rooting for, in order, Charlotte 1, Portland 2, and San Antonio and Houston as a number 3. If I can't have this guy, the last thing I want to see is him in the division. Well, lost out on that. I predicted yesterday that no matter where Victor ended up, that there was going to be conspiracy theories, and lo and behold, I was right. San Antonio has been a stronghold market for, even with the small size of the market, has been a stronghold market for a long time. They've been down, haven't won a playoff series in 6 years. They've got this iconic Hall of Fame coach, and right now they just stink. Okay, well, we can fix that. Boom, we put Victor there, and if David Robinson fell in love with San Antonio, there was never any inkling that David Robinson ever looked to leave San Antonio. And there was really not much of one when Tim Duncan was potentially going to be a free agent. Orlando was going to throw a gigantic contract at him, and they were going to bring him in with Grant Hill and Tracy McGrady, and they were going to form their big three, and everything was going to be great. But then Hill got hurt. Duncan told him no, and McGrady was sitting there going, what happened? And it never worked out for him. Victor Wembanyama, who would not be the first player from France who went to San Antonio and fell in love with the place. Tony Parker played his whole career there. I think he finished up 1 year in Charlotte, but basically his whole career there. And so you got everything in place. Not only are you going to deal with Victor Wembanyama there now, he's probably going to retire a Spur 20 years from now. He'll just retire a Spur. That's just how that operation runs. And Popovich is going to coach until he's 97. I mean, I thought he was going to retire after the Team USA stuff, but now that he's got Victor, he ain't going anywhere. I mean, if they finish down in the lottery, well, maybe he exits stage left. He's got this guy? No, he's sticking around. The lottery swings careers sometimes. It swings franchises. The one I keep going back to again is Duncan. You remember who was the worst team in the league, had one of the best odds to get Tim Duncan, was the Celtics. And the Celtics had a new coach. They got him from, where was that? Yes, that's right, the University of Kentucky. Rick Pitino. Pitino had his ducks in a row. The Celtics are going to win the lottery. I'm going to get Tim Duncan. And then he went to the Spurs. And Pitino's tenure with the Celtics was less than fantastic. Let's just say it that way. So Pelicans with the 14th pick, I still think they're going to move that in some combination trade for either a veteran big or a veteran shooter, but we'll see. Shamit Dua from Blue Crew Media is going to be with us tomorrow. We'll talk a little post-lottery stuff with the Pels. We'll take a break, come back. First class, second class, no class. When we return, is Hannytime, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hannytime.
Infinity of Baton Rouge right now offering you cash for your vehicle. It takes less than 15 minutes for you to get a quote on what your vehicle is worth. You can sell it to Infinity for cash. You can trade it in on another model, or you can just get the information and walk with that information. There is no pressure to buy. If you do get in a certified pre-owned program like we have a number of times, most recently just a few months ago, you get the benefits of a full year of prepaid maintenance, roadside assistance, and you're going to get a complimentary car whenever you do bring your vehicle in for service. Huge inventory on the lot right now. They're going to be able to match you to the make and model, the mileage. The price, of course, is most important to get you on the road and feeling good about the deal. It's a very comfortable buying process. I know. I've been through it a number of times myself. On Airline Highway at Acura and Infinity of Baton Rouge.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Bayou Ford has $15,000 off plus 0.9% APR for 60 months on all new 22 Ford F-150 SCA trucks and incredible deals on all remaining 2022 inventory, all with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
I drove myself to the ER, had heart surgery, and drove myself home 24 hours later, feeling fine. Starting running again after the procedure, I'm getting excited thinking about it. I had no pain, nothing. I felt great. And right then and there, I was like, oh my God, I'm back. I'm back. It's just amazing.
Ochsner Health. Long live you.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off.
Join us for the Wednesday edition of Game Time. We're live at Roca Pizzeria on Government Street in Mid-City. It's Game Time, 6 to 8 p.m. right here, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hannytime with Charles Hannegriff on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Hannytime. First class.
I want a seat in first class where I was booked and ticketed over a month ago.
Second class.
That no man should be subjected to the indignity of being labeled or treated like a second-class citizen.
And no class.
My life had become like school on Sunday. No class.
I'll tell you what then. Why don't you call me sometime when you have no class?
First class, second class, no class. Brought to you by Supreme Rice. Buy local with Louisiana-based Supreme Rice since 1936.
Start out with first class. Joe Burrow speaking this week, talking about his contract, and seemed to me that he wanted to keep some money around there so they could keep guys like, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and others. So very Brady-esque. But it wasn't even the best thing that Joe Burrow did this week. The Joe Burrow Foundation was taking, as I understand, they were taking applications from families at the Cincinnati Children's Hospital who were having mental health issues, and they got about 20 applications, and they looked at it, and how many can you afford to help? Well, after they met and went through all the applications and looked at every situation for all the families, they decided we can't figure out which ones deserve more than the other, so they paid for all 20. And the impact that we saw some of the families saying about what this is going to do to help them. That was just a tremendous. So, Burrow does the right things on the field. He does the right things off the field. Other than, he dresses a little bit flashy, there's not much of the look at me stuff, just stuff like this. Not that we need another reason, but Joe Burrow, first class, huh? That was kind of a layup this week. Second class, PGA at Oak Hill in Pittsford, New York. This is good with a chance to be great. All right, so let's do a little history first. 43 major winners have won their first major at the PGA Championship, more than any of the other majors. At the Open, it was 31. At the Masters, 32. 43 major winners have won their first at the PGA. Hal Sutton and David Toms, both from Louisiana, both won their only major at the PGA Championship. There have been some other big names like Payne Stewart, the late Payne Stewart, Paul Azinger, Davis Love, and more recently, Jason Day and Colin Morikawa won their first major at the PGA Championship. So the odds are that if you win your first major, it being at the PGA Championship, are a little bit greater. So how great would it be if Sam Burns won his first major at the PGA Championship? In pretty good form, 12 starts for Burns in the calendar year 2023. Won the Dell Match Play. He's got 2 other top 10s, 3 other top 15s, 3 finishes between 15th and 35th, and he has missed 3 cuts in 2023. At the Masters, he finished +1. That was good for 29th. He had 3 good rounds and 1 bad one. He shot a 78 on Saturday. The other 3 rounds were pretty good. So Sam Burns is having a good year. If he ends up winning his first major, it ends up being a great year. Somewhere around 38-1, which is pretty close. I think it was 40-1 to win the Masters. So somewhere in that area. Sam Burns at the PGA Championship. And no class this week has got to go to John Morant. The last 9 months for John Morant have been pretty horrendous off the court. Since he signed his contract last summer, which was for $193 million guaranteed. By the way, that number goes up to $231 in guaranteed money. And even for gazillionaires, $38 million is real money. But to get the rest of that guaranteed money, he's got to make an all-NBA team, which he didn't do this year, mostly because he missed 21 games. 8 of those were on a suspension. I dare to say that had he played through those 8 games, not even the other ones that he missed for injury, that John Morant would have been on one of those all-NBA teams this year. He averaged 26 points, which was 15th in the league, 8 assists, and 5.9 rebounds per game for a point guard. It's pretty good. So I think if he plays even 8 more games, he's probably at least on the 3rd team, and the rest of that money's guaranteed. He's got time in the contract to recoup it, but he didn't lock it in this year the way he could have. Last September, John Morant was playing in a pickup game in his house where allegedly he punched a 17-year-old. They got into it. He goes inside, comes back with a gun. They didn't have enough to charge him, but the police did say that there were enough corroboration there that something happened. All right. That, you got into it with some kid. All right. Deal with that. Then there was the altercation that his mother got into at the mall with the attendant at the sporting goods store. I think it was the Finish Line. So she gets so steamed at the attendant for I don't know what. She calls Ja. Ja shows up with 9 people and confronts security. Okay, well, now the police have got to come in again, and they look through and, all right, look, move everybody out. But the head of security at the mall ends up filing a formal complaint because he felt like he was in danger. Okay. Ja, I'm sure somebody in the Memphis organization at that point says, look, we're starting the season now. This is 2 incidents in less than a month. Cool it. February of this year, gets into a little altercation between his father and some people at an Indiana Pacers game, including Indiana Pacers players. After the game, they go confront the Pacers players at the bus. This is part of Morant's entourage, okay? One in particular, Devontae Pack, seems to be courting trouble everywhere he goes for John Morant. Pacers players get on the bus. There's a laser pointed at the bus. They think it's off of a gun. Police got to come and clear this up. They didn't charge him, okay, because they couldn't prove that the laser pointer came off of a gun. But they did ban Devontae Pack, his friend, from the FedEx Forum for a year. So something happened. Then you go into March, okay? Now we're at the strip club with the gun. That's what got him the 8-game suspension. He got called into the principal's office. They sent him up to Silver's office. They tell him, look, man, you can't do this. You're the face of the Memphis Grizzlies. You're one of the premier young stars in our league. And between you and your family and your friends, you are making this very hard on us. You are hurting yourself. It is costing you money every day, whether you realize it or not, whether it be endorsement deals that don't come or you got to deal with Nike. They eventually just say, you know what, we can't be associated with you anymore. You have got to cool it. Morant came out of things and said, man, I got it. No more. You won't get any more problems from me. Deleted his Twitter, deleted his Instagram, said, I'm good. And then came this week where he's with his friend Devontae Pack again. And Pack's got an Instagram, got a live feed going, and Morant's got a gun again. Adam Silver is maybe the softest commissioner that I have seen on player discipline in any sport. And I've seen quite a few of them come through. Silver is by far the softest. And last night on the NBA Draft Lottery, he was like, hang on. We got a problem. I mean, Malika Andrews, hands over this question. Well, she's got to ask the question, and she doesn't. He's like, I was shocked. This is just me. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I looked at Adam Silver, and he's like, no, we're going to have to do something here. Okay, so he's been very proactive at punishing owners who have run astray of league rules, and that's fine. That's necessary, as a matter of fact. You got to do – this is one of the elite players in the league. This is one of the most visible players in the league. This is somebody who has been in trouble multiple times since last September. Now you have to do something. And it seems like he's got plenty of support. And by support, I mean from the Players Association. Usually when you get into a situation where the commissioner has to discipline players, the union backs the player. That's the union's job. The union's been very quiet. The union's kind of been like, do what you got to do. We're talking about potentially a 40 to 80 game suspension for John Morant. It's not off the table that he could miss the entire season next year. So, what other category could we put him in this week? Then no class. See, as soon as you bring Victor you're bringing Victor into the division, maybe you lose Morant for a season. Take a break, come back, and wrap things up. Here is Hannytime, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hannytime.
Supreme Rice and SupremeRice.com. All throughout the month of May, we got graduation celebrations going on for high school and college graduates. You're having a party at your house, make Supreme Rice a part of it. Making a jambalaya, making a big red beans, making a big crawfish etouffee, whatever it is, make it with Supreme Rice. You're going to get more for your money. You're going to get a delicious product. You're going to be supporting our Louisiana farmers. Down in Crowley, Louisiana, and the surrounding areas since the 1930s. Whether it's the brown, the long grain, the medium grain, or the jasmine, Supreme Rice is going to fit all of your needs. Pick it up at your AG food stores, your Walmart neighborhood stores, your Rouse's, wherever you buy rice, make it Supreme Rice. For more information and some great recipes, some unique stuff, go to SupremeRice.com.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the JimsFirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the JimsFirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $20,000 off new 22 Ram 1500 SCA trucks and incredible deals on all remaining 2022 inventory, all with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Hello,
is a taco more than just a taco when it's Government Taco? Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it
for Thursdays off the bench, as LSU baseball coach Jay Johnson and LSU softball coach Bet Tarina both join the show, and we start looking ahead to the weekend in sports. Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hannytime with Charles Hannigreth on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
In the Bayou Ford chat, why doesn't the NFL have a draft lottery? I have no good answer for that, other than the fact that there have been, some. The problem of tanking is never going to go away, but you don't really tank in football. There are, the Houston Texans are a great example of that, right? They were still trying to win, probably shouldn't have, but I don't have a good reason for you why they wouldn't take the top maybe 7 or 8 teams and put them into some kind of lottery. I don't hate it. I don't love it. It's one of those things. I find it a little bit hypocritical when the NBA fines the Dallas Mavericks for tanking the last 2 games, which increases their odds of keeping the pick that they would have had to ship to New York if it had fallen out of the top 10 by, 3% or something like that. But the league is completely mum on, they don't think load management is a problem, per the commissioner. Okay, so what's the difference if you sit a guy and tank a game in February versus whether you do it in April? That's my thing. A number of people in here with the, John Morant versus Zion Williamson. I think I can put them all together and just say, which problem would you rather have? The guy that can't stay healthy, partially his fault, partially not his fault, or the guy that can't stay out of trouble, all his fault. I think I'd rather have the guy that at least some of it's not his fault than the guy that all of it is his fault. I'm not going to blame every injury that Zion's had on him not being in shape, just some of them. All of these dumb things, they're all on John Morant. But leave that to the folks in Memphis. Thanks to everybody for participating. For Jacob and Mario, I'm Charles Hanniger saying thank you and good afternoon. Stay tuned for Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hannytime.
Special day at Big Mike's out in Denham Springs. Heading out there for lunch after the show today. because a portion of the proceeds, it is Give Back Day. There was a shooting involving officers last week in Denham Springs, and Corporal Kelly will have a portion of those proceeds go to help in his recovery today. So stop by, have some lunch, have a cocktail after work. All day long today, they will be doing a benefit for proceeds for Corporal Kelly, who was wounded last Thursday in that shooting. So be generous today. You can also make regular donations. But head on over to Big Mike's. We're going to have a late lunch and a little cocktail, and the money is going towards a good cause. Big Mike's on Aspen in Denham Springs. We're kind of a big deal.
Turn my music high, 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 yeah.
You don't know what you're doing.
Sure I do. I'm from the streets where the hood can swallow on me. Bullets will follow on me. There's so much that you can run the slalom. And cops comb this top to bottom. They say that we are prone to violence, but it's home sweet home. With personalities clashing, chrome meets chrome. Prices up and down like this Wall Street.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies